Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about my favorite 5 albums for the month of February. As always, I'm going to go through chronological order based on date of release, starting off with Delain Dark Waters, out February 10th on Napalm Records. This is the band's 7th full-length studio album. They are a symphonic metal band, and this is one of those records that perhaps a lot of people didn't think they were going to get. When you go through a lineup change like Delain did, there's a lot of questions to be answered. I honestly didn't think that they had it in them to release an album as strong as this one, but this is an absolute home run. Phenomenal record, from the overall design to the song composition to the sound experience to the vocal performance. This album checks all the boxes. This vocalist really going to give Delain a chance to not only continue to play their previous tracks, but to also allow them to morph into perhaps a slightly different band going forward. She has incredible tools, she has an incredible voice, and this album feels like it's designed specifically with her in mind. It's a phenomenal album front to back. Next we have In Flames with Foregone, out February 10th on Nuclear Blast. This is the band's 14th studio album. They are a melodic death metal band, and sound-wise, this record really feels like a synopsis of everything the band has done. If you look at the first records in the band's discography, this album has a lot of similarities. It just has modern production behind it. So they brought what made them famous, they brought what made them a band into the future, gave it a more modern production, added more solos, and that is the sound experience on this record. Vocally, you're still going to get the harsh and clean vocals, but I felt like they were nicely divided in terms of what you're going to get on a song-by-song basis or even within songs themselves. This is one of their best, if not their best record in the last 20 years. I've said this from the first time I heard the album, and I'm going to continue to say that. This album has so many great elements to it. This is one of those records that it's very hard to find negatives unless you're a negative person and that's what you're looking for, because this album is In Flames. Say what you will about the band. When you look at the sound of the band from the start to today, the changes in production, the changes in sound, the changes in vocals, this album really captures the essence of what In Flames was and what In Flames is. And I think that's all you could ask from any band that's been around for as long as these guys have been. Next we have Siege of Power. This is tomorrow, out February 17th on Metal Blade Records. This is the band's 2nd studio album. They are a death thrash metal band, and this was a surprise to me. Sophomore album as good as this. Great sound, heavy, thick, powerful, but great production as well, and then great vocals to match that outstanding sound. A sound that at times feels more thrashy, at times it feels more like a death metal sound, and then there's certain tracks that combine those two elements perfectly to give you more dynamic movements, to give the songs a little bit more of a richer experience. But all around, an album that doesn't have flaws. It has a great design. It puts forward a nice fluid experience for the listener. You don't get tired of listening to this record because it's not repetitive. It doesn't overburden the listener with unnecessary elements in it. It's just a great death thrash metal sounding album. And if that's your thing, you're going to love this record from start to finish. Next we have Insomnium with Anno 1696, out February 24th on Century Media Records. This is the band's 9th studio album. They are a progressive melodic death metal band, and I'm adding progressive because let's face the facts, that's exactly where they're going with their sound, and this album is a perfect example of that. Now, I really enjoy the concept. This was based on a short story written by Nilo, so I enjoy the concept behind it, and I enjoy the approach that they took. An album that feels a lot darker, that feels a lot doomier, and a lot more progressive. There's still melodic death metal elements on this record. Of course there are. You're still going to find them there. That's still the bread and butter of Insomnium. But this album pushes the envelope a little bit more to the progressive side and a lot more to the doom metal side. And that's where the darkness comes. But if you look at the concept of the album, I don't think they had any other choice. This album is a dark album when you look at that concept and you look at the stories that drive that concept. So how can you make the album feel anything else than what the stories are telling you? So I enjoy this album from that experience. It's a record that sounds really good when you listen to the individual songs, but it sounds 1,000 times better when you go from start to finish. Now, you could say that the vocal approach on this record, as far as the production is concerned, it felt a little bit different. It felt a little bit deeper, a little bit more hidden. It didn't have the pop that Insomnium albums normally do, where the vocals are a little bit more in the forefront. But once again, I think you have to look at the concept of the album and the stories in that concept in order for you to fully understand why the vocals sound the way they do and why the overall sound is as dark as it is. Last but not least, we have Hyde Volk with Wederkeer, out February 24th on Napalm Records. This is the band's 7th full-length studio album. They are a folk metal band, and this record was a blast to listen to. I love this album. I love the concept behind it as well. Another concept album. I love the concept behind it. I love how fluid the songs are, how diverse, but almost subtle at times. You don't understand how diverse this album is until you've already gone through it a few times. It's an album that has so many different elements. It's also an album that overall feels a lot heavier. It's not driven as much by the folk sound of the band, even though the folk sound is still there and is still a huge part of who they are. This is definitely more of a guitar-driven album, and therefore you're going to see a lot more heaviness consistently from start to finish. But a phenomenal album, creating songs that are so different from one another, and at the same time they all feel like they belong together. It's not a disconnected record. It's a record that has a great sense of fluidity and continuity from song to song, even though these songs, like I said, are very different. This is it, my 5 favorite albums for the month of February. Let me know which ones are yours. Use the comment section below. Let me know, and I'll see you all at the next video.